Imagine opening your eyes for the very first time, not in a warm hospital room, but in a dark, smoke-filled hut. The air smells of sweat, rot, and fear. There is no doctor, no medicine, no safety. From the moment you are born, the world is already trying to kill you. For most of human history, being born wasn't a gift. It was a curse. There was a time when life itself was relentless suffering, when every breath was a struggle, every day was a gamble, and survival depended more on luck than strength. Historians often point to the centuries before modern medicine and basic human rights as the worst possible time to be born as a human. Life during this era was pure hell. Half of all children never lived long enough to speak full sentences. Infants died from fever, infection, or simple dehydration. A minor illness that we cure today with a pill could wipe out entire families. Parents learned not to get attached too quickly because heartbreak was almost guaranteed. If you survived childhood, you were thrown into a world of non-stop labor. Most people were born poor and stayed poor forever. Your future was decided before your first breath. If your parents worked the land, so would you until your body gave out. Days began before sunrise and ended after sunset. Hands blistered, backs bent, muscles tore. There were no days off, no vacations, no retirement. Hunger followed people everywhere, even during good years. And when bad years came, they were catastrophic. One failed harvest could trigger famine across entire regions. Food disappeared. Prices exploded. Desperation replaced dignity. People ate insects, roots, leather, and sometimes things too horrifying to describe. Starvation didn't come quickly. It dragged on for months, shrinking bodies and breaking minds. Disease was the invisible executioner. Cities were breeding grounds for sickness. Streets overflowed with waste. Drinking water was poisoned by sewage. People lived side by side with animals, sharing parasites and infections. No one understood germs, so prevention was impossible. When plague struck, they were unstoppable. Families died together in their homes. Villages were erased from maps. The sick were abandoned. The dead were piled into mass graves. Survivors walked among corpses, knowing they might be next. Pain was unavoidable. There was no anesthesia, no antibiotics, no sterile tools. A broken bone could cripple you for life. A small cut could turn into a deadly infection. Surgery meant being held down while flesh was sliced open. Many patients died, not from the injury, but from the treatment. Tooth pain alone was torture. Infections spread slowly, painfully, and often fatally. Relief came only through crude extraction or death. Violence shaped everyday life. Wars never truly ended. Armies marched through villages, burning homes, stealing food, and killing without hesitation. Civilians were not protected. They were targets. If you lived in the wrong place at the wrong time, everything you owned and everyone you loved could vanish overnight. Men were forced to fight. Many never returned. Those who did were often broken in body and mind. Women faced a different nightmare. Childbirth was one of the most dangerous events of a woman's life. Many died screaming in agony, bleeding to death on dirty floors. There were no emergency procedures, no pain relief, no way to stop infections. Pregnancy was repeated again and again because children died so often. Marriage was rarely about love. Women had little control over their lives or bodies. Abuse was normalized. Survival depended on obedience. Then there was slavery. Millions of humans were born into chains, treated as objects instead of people. They were beaten, sold, and worked to death. Families were ripped apart without warning. Hope itself became dangerous. Justice offered no protection. Punishments were savage and public. People were whipped, mutilated, or executed for crimes that today would barely warrant a fine. Trials were unfair. Accusations alone could destroy lives. Fear kept everyone silent. Religion dominated thought and behavior, but it often ruled through terror. People believed suffering was divine punishment. Questioning authority meant death. Education was rare. Knowledge was controlled. Ignorance was enforced. Mental suffering had no name. Grief, trauma, and despair were constant, yet there was no understanding of mental health. People carried unbearable emotional weight in silence. Those who broke were labeled cursed, possessed, or mad. Even entertainment reflected cruelty. Public executions were spectacles. Death was watched, cheered, and normalized. Violence wasn't hidden. It was part of daily life. Hope was fragile and rare. Most people lived and died in the same place, never traveling, never choosing their path, never escaping their circumstances. Their lives left no record, no memory, just dust. Compared to this, modern life, even at its hardest, is filled with miracles. Clean water, medicine, pain relief, human rights, education, safety. These things didn't exist for most of humanity's past. What we call normal today would have been unimaginable luxury. So when we ask what the worst time in history was to be born as a human, the answer isn't just one war or one plague. It was an entire era where suffering was unavoidable and survival itself was an act of defiance. And the fact that we are alive today, able to question, learn, and live with dignity, is something our ancestors could only dream of.